welcome in everyone. It is Friday. That means it is time for weekly North news. And before we get into the headlines that came out of the NFC North this week, I have two announcements. Number one, got myself a new Gophers hat, pretty exciting. And number two, this is going to be the last video that you see for this weekend. I will not be uploading Saturday or Sunday. I'm going to take a little bit of a break for the holiday, so you won't see me again until Monday. That is when we will re-hit the grind and get back at it. So enjoy this video, and then I will see you after the holiday. Having said all of that, let's get into the headlines. This is Weekly North News. All right, so here we are. Another Friday, another batch of headlines coming out of the NFC North. We're going to do one for each team this week, and we're going to start with Chicago. Ryan Pace had a press conference, I believe it was today. It was either today or yesterday. I already forget, but and the announcement was made. Two announcements came out of that I thought were very interesting. Is number one being that Andy Dalton is the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears, which I think we all knew. And Matt Nagy will be the play caller for the Chicago Bears this season. How long both of those things will last is questionable at best. I don't think that this is any sort of surprise that either of these two things were made abundantly clear by the Bears this week. And you don't bring in Andy Dalton on a $10 million one-year contract just for him to sit on the bench. That would cause more aneurysms in Chicago than I could possibly fathom, especially since they basically had to cut Kyle Fuller just to make room for this. So Andy Dalton will be the starting quarterback. They also mentioned that it's good to have both of the veterans in the building, and it would be nice to have a rookie in the building too. So I wouldn't rule Chicago out for drafting the quarterback. They're a little out of position to do it in the first round, so I think that it'll probably focus on the second round, where you could see guys like Kyle Trask or Kellen Mond or maybe even Jamie Newman come off the board. But for right now, we do know the answer to the question that we already knew, and that was Andy Dalton will be the starting quarterback for the Bears this season. Moving up north to Detroit, the Lions team president Roy Wood had a conversation with the media this week, and a lot of things were learned in that conversation. But the one thing that I wanted to bring up was just there was a question asked about the Detroit Lions uniforms, because they are now outside of that 5-year range where since their last change that they can start to make changes again if they so choose to do so. Roy Wood was asked about that, and he said that while there are nothing's really in the design phase yet, he has had some considerations and thoughts about changes that could potentially be made. So my reaction to that is that A, not only are the Detroit Lions uniforms pretty good now, I don't really think much needs to change, and B, the NFC North as a whole has a pretty good set of uniforms, I gotta say. From the Packers to the Bears to the Vikings and even the Lions, I think all of them are pretty crisp. I don't think that there's an ugly one in the division. So that, at least we got that going for us, right? So Lions fans will have to chime in, any of you watching this, and let me know what you think of the Detroit Lions uniforms and whether or not any changes need to be made. Number 3, we go to the Green Bay Packers, and they had a virtual press conference with I forget his name, the guy that runs the ship up there. I think his name is McCarthy, but I could be wrong. I'll put it up on the screen. But anyway, the Packers this year talked about going international because of the changes to the regular season. They now fall into the 8-year window where they will be playing an international game. And this is significant because Green Bay has never played overseas yet. They're the only team that hasn't done so, mostly because they fought against it because they didn't want to sacrifice a home game in their own stadium. And you know, that kind of makes sense to me. I would side with them on that argument. And I've always hated the international series. I don't see the point of it other than expanding the brand beyond the borders, which that's fine. You know, you could do that if you want, but the fact that you have to lose, that one team is going to lose a home game over it, it just kind of sucks, and it puts you at a disadvantage. Not to mention that, especially if it's in London, it's a huge case of jet lag, I got to imagine. But the Packers will be participating in the international series. It is yet to be determined where that is going to be. They're looking at sites for that from anywhere from Canada to Mexico to London, and a whole bunch of areas in between. But it will be interesting to finally see the Packers doing this. We just don't know when it will be. But unfortunately for them, they are going to lose that one home game that they've been fighting to not happen all this time. Lastly, we close it out with the Minnesota Vikings. Not much that I haven't already covered this week for this team, but I do want to mention briefly the 17th game schedule does affect the Vikings as well, of course, as it does all teams. And our 17th opponent will be the Los Angeles Chargers. We will travel to SoFi Stadium and play them in LA, which is kind of is good and bad. Number one, yeah, nobody wants to play another road game. It's the last game of the season, just sort of tacked on there at the end. But I think that this is good because next year we get the home game because they're going to trade off. AFC teams will host the 17th game this year, and NFC teams will host the 17th game next year, and then it will flip back and forth for the, however long we do this, which is probably going to be indefinite. And it's also interesting to see the Vikings go to the Chargers and play at the new LA stadium because number one, it's a great stadium, and number two, Vikings fans travel pretty well. And I remember the last time that we played the Chargers in their home stadium, and it was just a swarm of Vikings fans. So I'm very interested to see, two things like do the Vikings fans travel to that stadium just as good, considering it's within the same area, and are we going to be relevant enough at the end of the season where that actually happens? So it'll be interesting to watch how that all unfolds as we close out the 2021 season. So that's going to do it for our headlines for this week. Not a lot of breaking news, but we're sort of in that lull period where outside of signing free agents and getting ready for the draft, there isn't going to be too much that's going to be announced. So the show's going to be a little bit difficult to run on a weekly basis going forward, but we'll make it work somehow. So thank you guys very much for watching. Enjoy the weekend, and I will see you on Monday.